It is bright and early, and I'm gonna go and read before I start work. And I am undecided on what books to take with me. I just want to take one book because the reality is I'm not going to stay there for long. I know I was trying to pack 2 books in my bag. I'm trying to learn to just read one thing at a time so I can absorb it and process it in, I don't know, more unified ways. I know potentially it will never be me, and I'll just have to always have 3 books on the go. But sometimes it's nice to, try and do something different and try to do something to completion. So the 2 books I have in front of me are Brutes and Intermezzo. I don't think I need to say anything about this book. Is that a sign? Maybe it is a sign. However, I own this book. I bought it. And one of the ways that I tend to pick books is, when do I have to return them back to the library? And this is a book that I need to return very soon. In fact, in a couple of days. And again, I do this very often. I go on a rampage and I look for all these book recommendations because I'm feeling uninspired or I'm like in a reading rut, and then I make all these reservations at the library and just wait for whatever comes. And sometimes it's months before a book comes, and it happened with this one. So I can't quite remember where I got this recommendation from, which is, the same for this book, which I am really enjoying, and I'll talk about this one later. But it's giving me, weird lit that I'm not so sure I'm still into that genre, or if I'm interested right now, or if I'm in the mood for it. However, I was going to read the first page because I can quickly tell from the first and second page if I'm in the mood for it or not. And I saw that there's a Sabrina Aura Mark quote at the beginning, and I love her writing. I loved her pieces in the Paris Review. She did a few pieces, I think during 2020, during COVID times, and I found them excellent. And then she expanded on those and wrote a whole book. And basically she uses fairy tales to come to conclusions or find answers or learn lessons about her own personal life. And she does it in a fantastic way. I have really enjoyed her writing, and I really enjoyed her book. Her book is called Happily. Anyway, so I might take this with me and see how I feel. There's something about, taking time out very intentionally, like going out to a cafe and sitting down to read, that I want to make sure that the book I'm taking is actually a book that I want to read all the way through. But anyway, I can't control these things. So I might read the first page, and if it draws me in, I might commit. Yes, I might commit. Okay, yes, mysterious. Yes. I have returned with a big stack of books from the library. I had no intention of taking out this many, but if you've seen any of my videos, you know that I have a problem, I have a disease. I go in and I think to myself, just take out one, take the one you reserved. And then I walk around, and how the books are displayed, they are enticing. They look gorgeous, they look interesting. And so I take them all. And that's okay. That is, I'm okay with that behavior now. It's much better than going out and buying 7 books and having them all just, you know, collect dust on a shelf. I'd rather this. I was really pleased because I have been looking for this book. Elena knows I was going to buy it for myself, and then I couldn't find it at the bookstore. And for some reason, I just thought it wasn't going to be available at the library, but it was, and it was at the one that I was going to. So I grabbed that. I've heard a lot about it. It's from an Argentinian writer, and I think it is a crime fiction, which is way outside of my comfort zone, but I think it's done in a very different way. And I think that the main character has Parkinson's. Is that right? I thought this was a good summary. A piercing commentary on mother-daughter relationships, the indignity of bureaucracy, the burdens of caregiving, and the impositions of religious dogma on women. That's the sort of crime fiction I'm into. So we got that one. The one I was waiting for was Parade by Rachel Cusk. I truly don't know much about it. You'll sense a theme here. I don't know much about it. I just always, anytime Rachel Cusk writes something, I tend to read it. Claire Keegan, a short book. She is a master of the short novel. She's very precise with her language. Small things like these, a masterpiece. It was stunning, so I'm excited for this one. I just saw it on the shelf. I didn't know she had a new book out. I think this is from last year. Another one that caught my eye and I don't know much about. But I read the first page and I loved the first page. In fact, I loved the first few sentences. So I record here, for what reason, these verses from Eliot. In any case, not as a possible opening for one of my books, because I will never write anything else again. Yet, if I write these lines, I do not regard them as literature, not by far. I have written enough literature. For 60 years I did nothing but that. So let me permit myself now, at the end's end, one moment of lucidity. Everything I wrote after the age of 30 was no more than a painful imposture. I mean, I want to read more modern classics. I want to read more classics in general. So yeah, Romanian author. I'm very intrigued by this, so I shall let you know. So that's the stack from the library. Okay, now I have to actually do work. Damn it. Brutes is not for me. It was never for me. I gave it a go 3 different times, and I then reminded myself that life is too short to be reading books that are not for me. I found the language pretentious. I didn't find the children's voice believable or their thoughts or perspective believable. I didn't like the collective we as a narrator. It just creates this distance between me and the characters. And I know the mood is meant to be mysterious and eerie. I just felt like it was a bit forced. Yeah, not for me, which is a shame, because my most favorite books, my all-time favorite books, tend to have a child protagonist, because when an author can do that well, it can be fantastic. But again, I think it's extremely difficult for an author to be able to do that well, for like the voice, for the thoughts, for the relationships that they have, for all of those to feel genuine to the reader. So no, not today, not in this video, and not ever. Lovely, lovely cover. I mean, that is stunning. That is probably one of the reasons why I ended up taking the recommendation. But yeah. Anyway, we're moving on from that. So I'm moving swiftly along, and I am now reading Elena Knows by Claudia Piñeiro, translated by Frances Riddle. This is my kind of book. I've only read like the first 20 pages. I had to force myself to close the book and close my eyes and go to sleep. But I'm very excited to get through a big chunk of it today. The prose of this is quite precise and unflinching. It seems to me quite a philosophical book, at least right from the beginning. You get some core themes on bodily autonomy, on motherhood, and the nature of truth, and how these are all woven together. And it is through the lens of a woman who is battling Parkinson's. And so the mother, Elena, has just lost her daughter, and she is trying to solve this mystery. Simultaneously, a meditation on disability and a compelling murder mystery. Murder mysteries are not my thing. They are way outside of my comfort zone, but I think that this is a kind of murder mystery that I would really enjoy. I have a lot to do today, so I really have to carve out some time because I have a big assignment I have to prep for. It's a practical assignment that I have this afternoon. I have some editing to do. I have some work to do. So yeah, we have to plan appropriately. Okay. And so I think this is where, it all fell apart. I took myself out for a coffee. I knew it was not going to be, this was the day of the election. I knew I wasn't going to be able to focus on much else. I did try to read my book, and I was feeling quite hopeful in the morning. And then panic set in, and then I brought myself home. I had a piece of very lovely vegan chocolate cake with some strawberries, and then I decided I couldn't watch this election on my own, and so I went to my friend's place, and yeah, I think it was devastating. It is devastating. What I keep coming back to is that I do not want to wake up the morning after the election in Australia that will happen next year feeling the way that I do. And there are many things that I can do. There are many things that we can do collectively. And I am now going to be more proactive about sharing those things here on this platform. I have not been good at doing that at all. And there's no excuse. Reading is one of the ways that we can free ourselves and educate ourselves. And yeah, It starts with community. It starts with supporting your local community. It starts with getting involved in local politics, with volunteering. And then it goes beyond that, caring about the people that you don't surround yourself with, caring about the rights of other people. I think being in the mental health sector and how disappointed I've been throughout my master's program, time and time again, how neutral and apolitical it is, how extremely political mental health is. I just think that we all deserve mental health practitioners that fight for people's rights, that are vocal about their politics, are vocal about their stance on Palestine, are vocal about, you know, the things that are happening in the world, because the things we don't, our mental health does not exist in a vacuum. Going for a walk or being able to, you know, run a nice warm bath, being able to feed yourself good food, that is all political. The fact that you can go for a walk and you're not breathing in polluted air, the fact that your city is walkable, the fact that you can catch public transport to go to the supermarket, the fact that there are markets around where you can get your fresh groceries, all the things that people or therapists or mental health advocates, practitioners suggest that have to do with self-care and taking care of your mental health are only available and accessible to certain people, first of all, and are extremely dependent on the policies in place and what the government has decided to fund and subsidize. I think many of us have just become a little bit comfortable and a little bit lazy because of our privilege. Okay, that is all for now. So I finished the details a few days ago and I really wanted to talk about it because I absolutely adored it. This is my cup of tea. My style of writing is written by Ia Genberg, translated by Kier Josephson, and if I'm not mistaken, it was shortlisted for the Booker Prize maybe 1 year or 2 years ago. This is an exploration on how literature intertwines with relationships and memory, told through prose that is often very concise and poignant, but also feels very dreamlike. So it's divided into 4 chapters, and each chapter revolves around a relationship that the main character has had and how that relationship has affected them. I think this is for anyone who loves Rachel Cusk, loves Deborah Levy, loves Lucia Berlin. If you love any of those authors, I think that you will really enjoy this. The novel moves very fluidly between past and present, which makes time less linear and more malleable, which again represents how we, hold on to memories. A lot of the times, how we remember things is not in a linear manner, but more so what was most important, what affected us the deepest, what brought us the most joy. So it brings us back to how memories can shift and reshape themselves throughout time. Five out of 5 for me. I absolutely loved it and I devoured it. I read it quite quickly. I think one of my favorite chapters is the first one, and it's about Johanna. It's a relationship that the narrator finds herself in, and she is very different to this character, Johanna. And I related to the narrator so much. And so when I was reading this, I felt, there's certain people in my life that I've loved so much and admired so much. And at the same time, I have wanted to be them so fiercely. I wanted to be more like them. And I have wondered, what does that mean for a relationship? What does that mean for a friendship? Where does that leave me? I don't know what it means for a relationship. I've thought a lot about it. This is how she describes her. She thought it was her duty to finish a book she'd started, just as she finished all her courses, papers, and projects. There was a deep-rooted sense of obedience in her, a kind of deference to the task at hand, no matter how hopeless it might seem. She must have gotten that from her parents, from their creativity and inflappable dedication. In her view, this commitment to completion allowed her to enter the future unencumbered, a way of maintaining what she called a clean slate. I sit in a corner, an empty plate on a plastic tray in front of me as I finish the dregs of my light beer while watching the other early afternoon patrons. There'd be a notebook in front of me paired with a carefully selected pen, but I rarely made use of these implements. I might have given the impression of being dedicated, but I was not, and the book stack on my nightstand always included 1 or 2 titles I'd abandoned midway through. I preferred books with a pull so strong I couldn't get out. It was the same way with most things in life, and as a result my responsibilities were few, perhaps too few. In fact, I'd rarely encountered a responsibility I didn't reject. Anyway, I related to that. I guess I relate to that very strongly in my the creative part of myself, in which I think my desire, which was once a very strong desire to want to take writing seriously, has dwindled in the face of, you know, other responsibilities and other endeavors. And so with things that I've felt really passionate about that I've had to put on the back burner, I think that there is this sense of a lack of commitment and a lack of discipline, and like I want to do it and therefore I start many times and then I can just never follow through. And it's hard to know if it is fear, if it really is a lack of time, or is it a lack of making it a priority. I find it really hard to decipher, and I want to push against this notion that if you're really passionate about something, you can make time for it, because I think that that's such an ableist, privileged notion, and I think that that notion really breaks a lot of creatives down, because the reality is that a lot of people, you know, have bills to pay, have responsibilities to, you know, keep a roof over their heads. Many people are chronically ill. Many people are mentally ill. And, you know, many people are also working within a system that does not help them, does not support them, does not benefit them. And so this is to say that if you've had something that you have felt really passionate about, and you have wondered, like, why can I not follow through? Maybe there are many things out of your control, and maybe this is not the phase in your life, because I think if it has to come between like taking care of your mental health or becoming successful in this one thing that you've been really passionate about, what a horrid, difficult decision to make. Anyway, as always, I didn't know that that's where I was going. 5 out of 5. I loved it.